In 2008, I stepped into the chairman role of Twitter, and there was an interesting thing that was happening. The entire market was crashing. So all of these financial abstractions that we had built up were suddenly being swept away. And there is no better time to start a company or a new idea than a depression or a recession, because a lot of the management teams were being asked to leave. There's a lot of people who needed to get really creative to create something new. And there was an opening. And there was an opening particularly in payment. And in a month, we built a very early prototype of what is now known as Square, which is a credit card reader that plugs into the audio jack of your iPhone or your Android or your iPad or anything that has an audio jack. We just need to write software for it. And the software and the hardware was really easy, and we got that done in about a month. I could actually swipe a card and generate an electronic receipt via email and then send it out to a person. And I love this because I would go around to all these angel investors and VCs and charge them $5 or $50 to show them my new idea. And made $600 from that, by the way.
So what does the future of Square look like in sort of giving people access in all kinds of ways to being part of the economy as merchants and as consumers?
I believe that the currency we use is a huge part of the answer. And I believe that the internet deserves and requires a native currency. And that's why I'm such a huge believer in Bitcoin, because our biggest problem as a company right now is we cannot act like an internet company. Open a new market, we have to have a partnership with a local bank. We have to pay attention to different regulatory onboarding environments. A digital currency like Bitcoin takes a bunch of that away, where we can potentially launch a product in every single market around the world, because they're all using the same currency. And we have consistent understanding of regulation and onboarding and what that means. So I think the internet continuing to be accessible to people is number one, and then I think currency is number two. And it will just allow for a lot more innovation, a lot more speed in terms of what we can build and others can build, and it's just really exciting. So I mean, I want to be able to see that and feel that in my lifetime.
What do you find appealing about Bitcoin, about digital currency? Where do you see it going in the next 10, 20 years? And what are some of the challenges with respect to Square, but also just bigger for our globally, for our world, for the way we think about money?
I think the most beautiful thing about it is there's no one person setting the direction. And there's no one person on the other side that can stop it. We have something that is pretty organic in nature and very principled in its original design. I think the Bitcoin white paper is one of the most seminal works of computer science in the last 20, 30 years. It's poetry. It's moving the world forward in a way that I think is extremely noble and honorable and enables everyone to be part of the story, which is also really cool. So you asked a question around 10 years and 20 years. I mean, I think the amazing thing is no one knows. And it can emerge, and every person that comes into the ecosystem, whether they be a developer or someone who uses it, can change its direction in small and large ways. And that's what I think it should be, because that's what the internet has shown is possible. A global currency, which a native currency for the internet is a proxy for, is a very powerful concept. And I don't think any one person on this planet truly understands the ramifications of that. I think there's a lot of positives to it. There's some negatives as well.
Do you think it's possible, sorry to interrupt, do you think it's possible that this kind of digital currency would redefine the nature of money, so become the main currency of the world, as opposed to being tied to fiat currency of different nations, and sort of really push the decentralization of control of money?
Definitely. But I think the bigger ramification is how it affects how society works. And I think there are many positive ramifications
Outside of
around
just
that.
money, just
Outside of just money. Money is a foundational layer that enables so much more. I was meeting with an entrepreneur in Ethiopia, and payments is probably the number one problem to solve across the continent. The lack of easy ways to pay people makes starting anything really difficult. I met an entrepreneur who started the Lyft/Uber of Ethiopia, and one of the biggest problems she has is that it's not easy for her riders to pay the company, and it's not easy for her to pay the drivers. So the fact that she even has to think about payments instead of thinking about the best rider experience and the best driver experience is pretty telling. So I think as we get a more durable, resilient, and global standard, we see a lot more innovation everywhere. And I think there's no better case study for this than the various countries within Africa and their entrepreneurs who are trying to start things.
Where is most of the growth coming from?
In our core business. I mean, that's what we're most proud of, is like we continue to build a business that scales. We're reaching more of our small businesses, more of our independent contractors, and we're seeing more and more larger sellers as well. And I think one of our, biggest differentiators in the market is we're self-serve. Anyone can come to us and just get started right away, and we're seeing that at every scale, from the small to the very large. So that's really the core. And then Square Capital just continues to be something that we're really proud of. And as I said on the call, we realized recently that we're not really competing with financial institutions and banks and traditional lenders. Our average loan size is $6,000, so we're competing with people going to their friends and family and ask for a loan, and that's a massive market. So we continue to innovate within that space, but it's just like it's got great fundamentals to it, and is something that continues to be attractive to all of our Square sellers.
Where do you see the most promising sources of new growth in the future?
I still see a lot in the core. We still have a lot of small merchants to reach. We still have a lot of room to grow up market. We recently introduced Square Point of Sale for retail. So we're getting more specialized and really paying attention to what retailers need in particular. This is something, we've always been more of a horizontal service, and we have been able to really specialize and go vertical. And by doing so, we get to open the funnel on who we get to reach. So we have a lot of power in the fact that we can speak to everyone, but we can also now go vertical because we have built a platform that allows us to move fast.
Let's talk about the decision behind the physical card that you're now offering. Do you want to offer more actual bank services?
Over 8 years, we have taken on a partnership mindset with the banks. We're not out to compete with financial networks or to replace banks. But what we've been really good at is making what they currently offer today accessible to more people. And we started with sellers, and we took, an industry that would only enable 40% of people to get through to start accepting credit cards. We took that number to 99%. And we think there's a lot of room still to do that in seller spaces like Square Capital and loans, but also on the individual side as well. So, when you consider us, I would consider us as a simple, easy way for anyone to be able to start immediately and participate in the economy, whether that be on the seller side or an individual side. And what we're seeing with Square Cash is we are reaching an underserved, and we are reaching an underbanked, and it's a very young audience as well. So that makes us really proud, but it's consistent with what we've always been. Building software that is intuitive and easy, no matter the scale, is really important. One of our greatest differentiators is really around being cohesive. We aren't just a point of sale. We are payments, and we are Square Capital, and we are CRM, and we're instant deposit. And it's all built into the same package. So you just download one app, and you have everything you need to scale. So you can literally start as one location and scale to 40 without having to think about anything and without having to talk with anyone either. And that's really powerful. And we've focused our energy on making sure that we're delivering the most critical things first, and then identifying what the next most critical thing is to solve a circumstance and a situation that a merchant finds themselves in.
I'm curious how you think about profitability and how that impacts how far out you plan the product roadmap.
Something I'm really proud of is, we are a company that's moving money, so we've put a lot of controls over everything that we do, and we have a lot of discipline. And getting to profitability means that we've achieved a discipline milestone, and that we get to choose then how we invest or how we drive profits. And getting to that milestone is really important to us, and we continue to show progress against it. It means that we continue to control our own destiny. It means that we continue to show that we understand the system that we're building, and we understand the market, and we understand how to serve our customers, be them sellers or buyers. So, we'll get to that milestone, and we'll continue to invest in building better and better services and better products. But I think there's a lot of value in the fact that we are a platform that brings institutions together. We bring networks together, and we bring platforms and hardware together as well. So there's a real value in our independence, and that's what we're building against. And just making the sale. Anytime a seller makes the sale, our business grows. And if our business grows, then we can continue to help more sellers. So I feel really good about what we're seeing in the economy, and also how we will continue to thrive and support that.
Where Square goes next, you've been expanding abroad. Where to next?
Well, we want to go everywhere. We want to be a tool and a service that's accessible to everyone in the world. We have a lot more friction in our industry because we have to work with banking partners, and we have to work with regulators, and every local market has its own rules and regulations. So we want to move as fast as possible, but we don't want speed to be the enemy of great and best. And best to us means cohesive, it means thoughtful, it means tailored to the market that we're entering. So we're going to take our time because we want to do it right. We don't need to be first in market. We just need to be the best option out there. And that's what everyone behind me is working on right now. And then we realized it wasn't about accepting the credit card. It was actually like these people are losing sales because they can't accept this payment device. So it became a problem statement that we're going to help these sellers make the sale in the first place, and then potentially, as we figure things out, help them make more sales as well. Like, we could have gone down a path of building a credit card reader, charging for the software, charging for the reader, and we'd end up being like Verifone, which produces all these big black terminals, which is not a very valuable company. I don't even know if they're around much anymore. A credit card machine is just one way to make the sale. There's also point of sale, which helps organize the business, so they organize the information around the business so they can make more informed decisions. Capital, lending helps them make a sale. So with that one insight, we were able to really expand the value, the potential value of the company, because we weren't focused on one tiny thing. We were focused on a bigger job, which is help me make a sale and then help me make more sales. We've kind of built the business just focusing on like what is the most critical need right now, and then the next most critical need, next most critical need, next most critical need. And we started with the smaller merchants who probably have this problem, but it's in comparison with the other problems they have of just getting people in the door. It's it's just not meaningful to solve. So eventually, over time, I'm sure analyzing foot traffic and how to gain insight from that would be useful, but at the moment, not so much. The blockchain is a ledger, and our business is around having a credible ledger. So we're actually using the blockchain internally right now, and I'm sure it has other applications internally. Is this a unique and efficient solve for that problem? And then we're going to be doing a ton with Bitcoin and crypto generally, but we are using it today because it fit perfectly, because it actually solved one of our biggest operational challenges, which is a ledger in real time. Here, especially here in San Francisco and Silicon Valley, like a lot of our innovation comes from desire.
And the stark contrast in the countries within Africa is it's all out of necessity. And that creates an incredible focus and passion. The number one part of my job is team dynamic. It starts with my team, but it extends the whole company. And that means how we work together, whether we're contrasting in a positive way, whether we're making ourselves more creative through the conversation and the work. So a lot of it follows from that. I wanted to go in with a not only usage but a working prototype, and Square was like an incredible company to pitch because I would just go up to these investors and I would say, "You want to see our thing?" They would say, "Yeah," and they would hand over your credit card and they would say, "Why?" I'm like, "I want to show you the thing," and they're like, "No." I'm like, "Well, we're gonna leave." And they're like, no, here. And then I would take like $5 or 50, or if they hand me a black card, I would take 500 because why not? They're not gonna miss it. And we would have a good dinner then. And like that, it being that tangible just immediately got their imagination working. Like they would say, my dog walker could use this, my babysitter could use this. Like, there's a coffee store I go to that doesn't accept credit cards. It's so frustrating. So as soon as they start like completing the story, then we have a captive audience to tell our own sense of like how we're going to build a business of mass. The numbers certainly come into it and they want to see all these models. I mean, you have to just make it work, right? So all we can do is show why we are best to make it work. And that was the other thing that I was up against is like, well, there's the short-term plans and then the longer-term plans. The short-term plans is we as a company cannot act like an internet company. An internet company can launch something and publish a website or publish an app and the whole world can use it. We have to go market by market, have a relationship with a bank, have a relationship with the regulators, change our entire flow for all these different markets. It took us like 9 months to open in this country, even though we had all the technology built. It took us almost a year and a half to open in Japan because we were the first time you could actually accept credit cards without doing an in-person government visit. Australia took 2 years because we found out that the banks also make point-of-sale systems and they didn't want us in the market, so they pushed the regulators to keep us out. So like it's just a mess. So on the short term, we have to conserve our resources and go market by market by market by market and do all these trade-offs around like what is the benefit. And the only rubric we used is what are the biggest economies in the world and just go down the list. So we started with U.S., skipped China, went to Japan, went to Australia, and tried to get. We thought we were smart by trying to get in the EU through England, and then that whole. We're in England now, but now we have to go back to the EU and go through Paris or France or Spain. So that for a payments company, it kind of sucks because it's just like it's a crazy slow process. Something like Bitcoin changes this completely because if the world has one currency, you don't have to go market by market by market. You can actually launch something and the whole world could potentially use the same thing. So for the long term, that's why we're pushing so much on Bitcoin and crypto is like we need to see this as a currency. We need to see this as a global currency because it solves a bunch of our needs. It's also what the internet wants. Yeah, we would love to move faster for all these countries around the world, but like payments, but it's getting better and better every day.